You're listening to the SBA Loan Experts Podcast, your source for information, tips, and education on the SBA loan program from SBA expert Chris Hearn, founder and CEO of Fountainhead, the nation's leading non-bank SBA lender. Here's your host, Chris Hearn.
Let's go ahead and talk about, we've made some upgrades. We've been using a portal for submissions of deal documents for some time now, but we actually have a brand new system that we've launched. Some of you may have even participated in it so far. But Bob, tell them a little bit about what we've done and how we give them access to this if they're an approved broker.
So, we had as Chris alluded to, we had a software that allowed for a new deal to be submitted and we could collect the documents. But what we found when working through that is the shortcomings were, all right, once we initially had the deal and worked it, but as it went further through the process into our underwriting department and then from underwriting into closing, they weren't working with that program. And that program was only functional for the front end, not for underwriting and closing. So it became difficult or challenging for you as a broker to work with underwriters if they had questions or needed additional information, and the same thing with closing. So we adapted and now have a new software program that we refer to as Lender AI that covers that deal from soup to nuts. So you as a broker will have the ability to A, submit a referral, or B, go if you have, let's just say you have 5 deals in with us and you want to work on deal number 3, you can go into that and just work on deal number 3. So you're going to have the ability to do both things. When you submit a deal, you'll have the ability to give us the information on the loan request, documents. You'll be able to submit all the appropriate documents, whether it's tax returns, appraisals. And instead of just uploading those documents one at a time, you'll now be able to upload up to 100 documents at one time. So much more efficient on your end. And then, as you're working with one of the loan specialists on the deal, you can finalize it there. But then once it goes into the underwriting, and whether you're working with, Jason or Darren or any of our underwriters, they'll all be on the same platform. They can see what you see. If there's additional information they're going to need, they can interact with you and tell you the documents. And then the same thing as it moves into the closing.
Yeah, it's really, as Bob's alluding to, it's a way to make things more efficient internally for us. It doesn't affect you a whole lot, whether we use the old portal or the new portal, other than, as Bob said, we're able to allow a lot more documentation uploaded at once. God forbid we have to have 100 documents. I hope we don't have any deals where we hit that maximum. But I think that'll be really useful. And then the other piece, which I think is really exciting for all of you, is that you'll have your own link and you'll actually be able to log in whenever and see where your deals are in the various stages. Is it still in preliminary underwriting? Are you waiting on the approval to be executed and a good faith deposit sent to us? Has it now moved into full underwriting? Have we already issued a commitment letter or waiting for that to be executed? Have we had our closing kickoff call? Do we have the closing date scheduled? You'll be able to see all these various stages and obviously communicate that to your client, which to keep them in the loop as well. Because we all recognize, Bob and I have both been doing this for a long time. I'm not quite as long as Bob, but there's a lot of anxiety that comes anytime somebody applies for financing. I don't care if it's for an SBA loan or a new credit card or a car loan or home loan. There's some anxiety involved because obviously it's an approval process. So we want to try to make that anxiety go down a bit, not only for your clients, but also for you. So that's one of the real benefits of this. So I think you guys are going to like it. I did allude to something though. I don't know if you caught it, which is this is a system that we use for our approved brokers. Okay. And so some of you on this call are not yet approved. Many of you are, which we appreciate. Because we specialize in SBA loans, SBA requires us to approve you, to do some due diligence on you, to make you an approved. So we get to the next thing we wanted to roll out. I did have already got some questions. So one comes from George. Thank you, George. Will Fountainhead documents or forms such as the landlord waiver, subordination of existing debt, et cetera, be available on the portal? Bob?
Yeah, we can certainly upload those. I mean, that's usually we get to that more into the closing process. That's part of
That's
the
right.
closing application. But yeah, this does provide the ability, if you want to get started on that sooner versus later, we can
Right.
upload the document to you for you to download
Yep.
and
And we
and work.
always recommend, some of you have been doing this for a while. There's always issues, it seems like, with landlord waivers. So the sooner you get your clients working on that, the better. But yes, George, you definitely will be able to upload those documents through the portal going forward. But as Bob said, you'd be working with one of our closers at that point. So a couple other questions we've got. Let's see, can your team make requests to me as a broker to upload documents, et cetera? Yes, we can. We'll be doing that. The way we communicate through the system with you, actually. So we'll be noticing you with what information you need to send up.
Different levels of involvement. In some cases, the broker wants to act and upload the documents themselves. In other cases, they refer us to their client to get the documents. This allows us to go either way.
Right. We have another question. Do you do startup loans for businesses? Yes, we do. Obviously, startup loans can be a bit challenging, as I think any SBA participating lender would tell you, or any bank lender. Obviously, banks don't do a lot of startup financing. But yeah, we do startup financing for businesses. You've got to have a good business plan. You've got to have detailed assumptions. We prefer to have some similar industry experience from the principals. You've got to make a good case for why we should lend money to a business and why this is a good credit risk that we'd be repaying us. So we don't just, SBA is not in the business of just rubber stamping deals that come in that are startups. There's a little more due diligence that goes into it, hence the business plan with detailed assumptions. But we certainly do them. We've done a lot of them, especially in the franchise space, but even beyond the franchise space. So another question that's come in, Bob. I want to know, I have a client that needs financing for inventory. This is from Joe. Inventory that will be needed for a government award. So the purchasing of the inventory will be after the award. That's fine, Joe. We do a lot of working capital financing, whether it's used for inventory or paying off payables or hiring people, launching a marketing campaign. It doesn't really matter. We do a lot of that. The nice thing about SBA financing on things of that nature is we go 10 years, fully amortizing terms, which is very beneficial. It's not unusual for conventional banks to do some inventory financing, if they do inventory financing, maybe on a 3-year term or even a 5-year term. So you're getting a much longer repayment term with SBA when you do something like that through us. So Bob, I'm going to let you answer a few more of these questions.
Yeah, a lot of lenders out there, when it comes to working capital, they'll provide working capital as long as it's in conjunction with something else, whether it's debt refinance equipment. I mean, with Fountainhead, we will make working capital only loans. We're one of the few out there that does provide that.
We have another question. What are your requirements regarding partner buyouts? Bob, you want to take this one just so they can hear more from you?
Yeah, so we love partner buyouts. Right now, probably partner buyouts and business acquisitions probably represent about half of the deals we're looking at right now.
That's right.
So similarities between the buyout and the acquisition is 10-year financing, fully amortized, no balloons, no calls, no prepayment penalties throughout the life of the loan. Now, the only challenge or hurdle that SBA threw into this a couple of years ago had to do with whether or not an injection was required. Now, I'm not going to get into some accounting here, but as long as the debt to worth is less than 9-to-1 on the most recent fiscal year end, no injection is required. In other words, if a company's making money, but then they turn around and take distributions for all the profits, they didn't leave anything in the company, then the buyer will have to put 10% of the purchase in. But otherwise, if they had a capital base there, no injection is required, so you can get 100% financing.
And when it's a partner buyout transaction, by the way, your client needs to be fully buying out their partner. You can't just buy, if one principal owns 70% and the other owns 30%, and the 70% owner wants to buy out the 30% owner, they can't just buy out a 10% of his stake or half of his stake, 15%. They have to buy him out 100%. That's how SBA's requirements are. They're looking at modifying that some, but there's been no announcement of what they're going to do just yet on that. But that's been the policy for quite some time.
And then we're going to do a focus, we're going to look at the historical operating performance of the company to see if they can support the proposed debt. We're going to
Right.
ask, does the buyer anticipate any changes? Is he going to expand the business geographically or from products to it? The final piece of the question we're going to ask is, the partner that's being bought out, does he have a skill set that
Right.
needs to be replaced? Or can the buyer, can he absorb that, or things of that nature? But otherwise, they're pretty simple.
Yeah, exactly. All right, our next question comes from Nick. What will the future be using PACE loans without the SBA? Well, we're very selective about what conventional loans we do these days. Of course, those of you who don't realize this, PACE loans are not something that are currently is eligible to be used in conjunction with SBA loans. Doesn't matter if it's SBA 7A, SBA 504. SBA at the moment is not interested in allowing PACE financing. Now, that may change in the future, but at the moment, that's not the case. So we do have a conventional product. It's very similar to our SBA 504 product. We typically go up to 65% loan to value on those loans. We are willing to have PACE financing on them, but again, we're being very selective about it, particularly as all the macroeconomic things that are occurring out there. Those are going to be a little bit more challenging. Our SBA 7As are a little bit easier to do, but of course, they're not going to allow for PACE financing with them. Next question, how do I register for an account with our lender AI? Bob, you have to be an approved broker to start with.
Yep. So if you're an approved broker, you should have got an email blast that provided you your link. But if you just email us, and I'll be glad to get back to you and give you that, to provide you that link.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast to be notified weekly of new episodes, and head over to FountainheadCC.com for more about our SBA 7A and SBA 504 resources. Also, give us a follow. You can find us by searching Fountainhead on any of your favorite social media channels. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
Today's episode is brought to you by Fountainhead, the nation's leading non-bank SBA lender. Fountainhead's team of SBA experts will guide you through every step of the process and get your loan closed faster and more efficient than any bank. Apply today online at FountainheadCC.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the SBA Loan Experts Podcast.